Hey there, welcome. My name is Jessica Buchanan, and I'm a New York Times bestselling author, professional speaker, and founder of Soul Speak Press, a non-traditional publishing company created for women who've been through something, now they know something, and they can teach us something. In Her Words is a podcast designed to support aspiring memoir authors on their writing and publishing journey. It's hard work, this writing and publishing stuff, and I want to empower you with encouragement and information so you can keep sharing your truth. So grab your coffee, your notebook, find a quiet space, and let's dive in. Well, hey there. Welcome back to another episode of In Her Words. I am your host, Jess Buchanan. I am wondering how you felt about the episode last week about the difference between a memoir and a memoir manifesto. Hopefully that kind of it took care of some confusion and maybe you learned something. That's always my goal in recording this podcast and putting this information out there, is that whoever gets their hands on it is going to learn something about the publishing industry, about memoir writing, about author branding, what it takes to actually make it in this business, and also just, to be inspired and empowered. And information is empowering. At least I think so. Today I want to talk to you about 5 ways that you can make money on your book without actually having to sell your book. Okay, so this was inspired. Well, I'm always inspired to talk about this. I'm gonna lean back in my chair a little bit and we're gonna have a little chat. I have a lot of notes. I'm gonna be looking down for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, just so I can stay organized. But um, I get this question a lot with prospective authors who, we're non-traditional boutique publishing company. So what does it mean to be non-traditional? If you've been listening to me for a while or following on social media, you understand that non-traditional means that there's an investment involved in working with us, right? Publishing is expensive. We don't use AI in terms of our communication with you, with our developmental editing, our copy editing. We're not using ChatGPT to write copy or to copy edit your work, your manuscript. We have to pay people, like very talented, certified copy editors. Our copy editor extraordinaire, Ilsa, who's based out of Phoenix, who you'll meet in a couple episodes. It takes her like 40 to 60 hours to copy edit an 80,000 word manuscript. And she's fast but she's just that good. And there are so many steps involved in getting a book published in a professional way. People need to eat. People need to keep a roof over their heads. This is a profession, and so we charge because, we have to in order to stay in business. So I had a prospective author, we sent a contract out, and she wrote me back after thinking, I think, about the initial investment for just a very basic, she had already written the manuscript and the book was ready to go. It was pretty squeaky clean. She actually works in the publishing industry. And so we just needed Ilsa to go through it, and then we were going to do the publishing package. But it's still a sizable amount of money. It's a nice cushion, right? It's a chunk of change. And we break things up into payments. We try to be as flexible as we can, but her question, which is something that I hear a lot from people, is how long will it take me to um earn out my investment? So how many books will I have to sell, and how long will it take me to pay myself back for this initial investment through book sales, essentially? And sometimes I want to be like, well, let me grab my crystal ball. Here's the deal. I have no idea. It depends on so many things. It depends on how bad you want it and how much you can hustle, too. I've worked with authors who really work hard. They're out there, they're pounding pavement, they're going to book signings, they're creating, book readings, they're, creating social opportunities where they can go out and share their story and sell the books because they're trying to make some of their investment back. And then it's radio silence from a lot of authors, especially like in the anthologies, because there's such a huge group of women, of writers. Some of them don't ever do anything, and that's okay. Like that, I don't care one way or the other. But what I do care about is helping prospective and aspiring authors who are considering working with us at Soul Speak Press, or even considering like working in a hybrid context. We don't consider ourselves hybrid, right? Because we don't keep any of your royalties or retain any rights to your manuscript. So that's what differentiates us. But I have five, and this is what I wrote to her. I didn't give her all five, but I gave her a couple ideas in terms of like how you can actually make back your investment after you have spent this sizable amount of money on getting your manuscript or getting a writing coach or building out your social media, whatever it is that you've invested in, however much. Here are five ways that you could make your investment back. Okay, so the first one is, always my go-to. I've been very lucky in this regard, even 12 years post kidnapping experience. We're 11 years post New York Times bestseller. I am part of what I do, part of my profession and my business is professional speaking. So I spend a good amount of the fall and the spring being what they call in the industry a road warrior. So I travel a lot. This in September alone, I think I have 5 or 6 speaking events. And that is a good portion of my earnings for the entire year that goes to support my family. It puts food on the table. It pays for soccer fees, and it buys, if you follow me on Instagram, my love of clothes. So, it pays the taxes. So speaking engagements are a very, very lucrative way to make back part of your investment that you've put into your book. Especially if you're like in the thought leadership space, which is why memoir manifestos are so important to us in terms of putting out that structure and that genre of book. It gives you a space where you can teach lessons, which makes you more attractive to those who are hiring speakers. Now, if you're new to this whole world and you're just starting out, you're probably going to have to do a few speaking gigs for free, pro bono. I've done my share of pro bono. I still do some of them. Sometimes I have a certain number of speaking events that I will do for free every year for nonprofits or for fundraising. Of course, I'm always working with the Navy SEAL Foundation, but I'll never be able to pay them back for my life. However, so you're probably going to have to start small and incrementally work your way up unless you've done speaking before, unless you are a well-known facilitator or you've done a lot of public speaking and have a network where people know, or maybe a business. You're an entrepreneur and people know you and you have a reputation already built and a platform already built. If this is like new for you, but speaking is a goal, which it often is for the authors that come to us and approach us to work with us, speaking and advocacy work is a major part of what they see in terms of the big picture when they have, like when we talk about their big picture goals for what they want for this book, the path and the journey that they see for this book. I feel very strongly that if you want to be taken seriously at speaking events, if you want to get a leg up in terms of booking these gigs, you need to have a book. Your book is your calling card. Your book establishes credibility. It's also a continuation of your keynote. You only get 40 for, I'm doing a keynote next week where I get 10 minutes. So, people want to know what happened. They want to know what you've learned and what you can teach them. You can only do so much of that in 40 to 45 minutes of a keynote. This is where, it could come in really handy that you do have a book because they want to get to know you. They want to hear more of the story. So you're up there giving your keynote, and while you're up there, they're either going to look and see if you're selling books at the back of the room, or they're going to buy your book on Amazon because they are so in love with you and everything you have to say, and they know that there's more to learn from you. It's a way for your audience to continue connecting with you. And, I will often bring or have like often Lauren will ship books to speaking events if that's something that they want. But sometimes I'll bring a couple with me and just give them away because this leads into the second way that you can make your investment back, especially if you're a coach or you're an entrepreneur in some capacity. Just giving your books away may not feel like the most financially responsible decision, but I guarantee you it will help convert your readers into clients. It will convert them into customers for you. Having a book out, sharing your story, your memoir manifesto, helps us prospective clients who are considering working with you get to know you a little bit better. They start to understand if you're funny, if you're a little somber, if you're sarcastic, a little ironic. They want to know what you've been through. They want to know what you've learned and how you can help them and what you can teach them. And you can do a lot of that in your book and then continue on in the coaching capacity. There are all kinds of ways that people can connect with you. It's also, again, it's the best business card because you can put a sales sheet with a QR code at the back of your book, and people will be able to immediately connect with you, especially if they're not like big on social media or LinkedIn or Instagram. Having a QR code at the back of your book is like the new business card. For me, I think it's often too like a reference. So if I have an author who is thinking about considering working with Soul Speak Press, oftentimes I'll send them books. Oftentimes they'll let me know that they've ordered them off of Amazon. They want to read the quality of work of the writers that we've worked with. They want to read the kind of books that we're putting out. They want to make sure that if they're investing a lot of money in working with us, that we're not putting out a bunch of crap. So I wholeheartedly believe that the memoir manifestos that we put out are of the best and utmost quality. They want to make sure that the books don't have a ton of typos in them, that the covers look professionally designed, and they want to see how the book feels because this could be them in 6 months or a year. So it's a reference for me. And it could be the same thing for you as you're trying to book clients in whatever capacity, you're in. I think about one of our clients now, her book is going to come out in March. She is literally one of my favorite. I tell her this every time I get on a coaching call with her. She's one of my favorites. She's a really great writer. Her story is incredible. I'm not going to go into it because I want you to read the book when it comes out in March, but she survived a horrific automobile accident and has just rebuilt herself in her life. And she's a wellness coach and a pain advocate. And I think one of the greatest things for her business that she has done is put the money and the effort and the time toward writing this book, this memoir manifesto, because it not only is it going to secure speaking events for her, it's also going to help secure more clients for her because they're going to read her incredible story. They're going to be so inspired and empowered by her. They're just going to want to work with her, right? So it's expensive up front, but it's a really easy way of building your business. I think it's one of the most necessary tools that you can have in your toolkit for building your business. Interviews. Okay. So from 2020 to 2023, I co-hosted a top 1% ranking podcast with another Jess. It was called We Should Talk About That. It was really, really fun. We had a great time. We had so many interesting conversations, especially thanks to the pandemic. So many people were stuck at home. So I know we had conversations with people who probably wouldn't have given us the time of day before. But I will say, as we built our presence and we continue, we were making, I think we were probably getting towards the end somewhere like 25,000 downloads a month, which is not easy to do, and not too shabby for, a 1%er podcast. We were really starting to build a lot of momentum, and we were getting pitched. We weren't even having to go out and ask and find interviews. We were just on the list of PR companies who would pitch us authors with upcoming books. And so we got to the point where we weren't even interested in interviewing guests if they didn't have a book, because to us that established credibility. It gave us a resource to learn them and what they were all about and what theme and work that they were promoting, and it informed our conversation. It gave us a basis for our conversation. So I know that when I do interviews on podcasts about Impossible Odds or about the anthologies that I've put out, Deserts to Mountaintops, that 100% converts into clients for me, which brings in income, and it depends on what kind of business you're in. If you're in the coaching industry, it could be that you just need two clients, two group coaching mastermind clients to make up your investment for your book. But had you not had your book, had you not been able to get on that podcast interview, it might not have been that one of your favorite clients heard about your story and the work that you're doing, and you wouldn't have ever met them. So it's kind of like a butterfly effect, right? But I find that podcast interviews are incredibly, sometimes it can be a goose egg, right? But it depends on the audience. It depends on, how big their audience is, how many downloads they get. But I've gotten on some pretty high profile podcasts like the Skinny Confidential, which I don't know how many millions and billions of downloads they get. But it was huge. And it brought me 3 anthology authors immediately. And I flew out to Austin for the interview. It was on my dime. I stayed a couple of days. I was there during South by Southwest, so that was pretty fun. But I just like made some fun out of it and worked while I was there, had a great time in the conversation doing the interview, came home. It was released in April, and I booked 3 paying clients in that right after that podcast came out. So that like paid, tenfold my costs for publishing, Deserts to Mountaintops, and also traveling out there. So I know that this doesn't, maybe it's not accessible to everybody if you're in your 9 to 5 and you're raising kids or you're trying to take care of your parents or send kids to college. And I'm so lucky that I get to do this full time. This is my 9 to 5. But I'm just telling you, there are alternatives and there are options, and this is what I do, and this is how I get paid, right? Okay, so that was 3. 4, you could also host workshops and retreats to make back some of your investment on your books. You could collaborate. If you're in the wellness space, why don't you collaborate with a yoga instructor and do a yoga workshop because your book is about mindfulness or your book is about your health journey? I'm trying to think of I know, one of our authors, Brenda Daly, whose book, if you're watching this, you can see right here, I Got Up, A Mother's Story of Grief, Resilience, and Unending Love. She is a counselor, actually. She's a therapist, and she's a grief and bereavement counselor. She also lost her son very tragically to a traumatic brain injury and complications with that. So she wrote this beautiful memoir manifesto. It came out in July. And I, of course, keep in tabs with her because I'm her publisher, but I see her on social media and she's hosting these really cool grief workshops, like these collage workshops where her story opens up where she's in a grief and bereavement workshop as a participant right after she's lost her son, and they're doing these collages, and it was like a very healing, illuminating journey and experience for her. And so she is hosting these now for other bereaved parents and turning them into income generating opportunities so that she can pay herself back for her book investment, right? And then at those workshops, you can also sell your books. Let's see. Okay, I feel like I miscounted. So let me review my notes again. Speaking engagements, converting clients, coaching, we did talk about that, interviews, and then we talked about workshops and retreats. And then of course, my favorite is Instagram. Okay, so it's the same with podcasts. Like I don't spend a whole lot of time selling my books on social media, but people get into my story or they're like super curious about what I've been through and what I'm doing now. And I get DMs every day where people have bought Impossible Odds and they're halfway through it, or they're listening to Deserts to Mountaintops and they just can't believe these women and that we put this project together. So I don't have to be actively pitching and selling and pounding the pavement, selling these books, although I do drive around with cases of books in my car. I just show up and I talk about my story and I talk about the work that we do here at Soul Speak Press, and I talk about the things that I'm into, and it attracts prospective authors and clients. And it's not easy because, nothing is ever easy, right? But it's super fun. It's super awesome to get to connect. And I think it's a great way of inadvertently, accidentally selling books. So there are lots of other ideas. I'd love to hear if you've had any other opportunities or you have any other ways of making back money because you are a published author. Perhaps your book gives you credibility so that you can go on and get paid for your blog posts or, work in a magazine environment or write for other publications. I don't do that. I don't Substack, but a lot of my authors do. That's another way. That's 6. Another way of making back some income and some revenue is building up your Substack. I can't speak to that because I don't Substack, but I know a lot of my authors do, and they're making money. They're paying themselves back for their investment. So to the prospective author who is trying to figure out if it's worth it. I'm not saying this just because I'm trying to sell you something because I'm a publisher. I will say it's worth it. It's worth it. Give it consider it. Think about what you want. I'm always going to ask you, what is it that you want? Where do you want to be 5 years from now? How would you feel if you didn't get this book out into the world? We're thinking big picture. We're thinking mission, purpose, strategy here. So let me know if you have any other ideas or had any other experiences. We are taking submissions for Deserts to Mountaintops Volume 4, so don't forget that. If you are interested in submitting your application to be a part of Out of the Ashes, go to soulspeakpress.com, or you can just DM me, Jessica C. Buchanan, or us at Soulspeak Press on Instagram, and we'd love to have a chat with you. If you are feeling like it's time for you to move forward with your memoir manifesto, it is time. Same thing, soulspeakpress.com. Email us at hello@soulspeakpress.com. DM us at Soul Press, and we'd love to have a chat and talk about your goals and how we can support you. But until then, keep writing. In Her Words is hosted by me, Jessica Buchanan, and is produced by Soulspeak Press, a non-traditional publishing house for women who are ready to tell their story. If you would like to know more about our submission process, I encourage you to check us out at www.soulspeakpress.com or follow us over on Instagram at Soulspeak Press. We appreciate all your questions, and if you would like to leave us a review, we would be so grateful.